Welcome to the Jets UK podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andreas Groves, and I'm joined by my new rotating co-host, Craig. How you doing, mate?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Craig's going to be joining us as a rotating co-host with David and Matt. We're all balancing work life, family life, everything going on, and we thought we'd bring on another really passionate Jets UK fan to give a different perspective, to just add another voice and another person that I can bounce ideas off when everyone's just got so much going on. So, Craig, thanks a lot for joining us on this one. I hope that the listeners get in and kind of enjoy listening to you as well, as much as they have with me, David and Matt.
For sure. I'll be honest, I'm just excited to not have to listen to people harp on about Matt Stafford, which is typical if you know one of my other podcasts that I do. It's nice to talk Jets. So yeah, man.
Yeah, it's so Craig does the Long Snapper podcast with a bunch of friends. It's a generalized NFL one, and I kind of got to know him through the Titans guys that we spoke to last year before the Titans game, and obviously he spoke with them from a Jets perspective before that game, and I was like, oh, this guy's good. I thought it would be a good voice to add to the podcast, and like I said, that they do good stuff at the Long Snapper podcast. So yeah, go follow them as well.
We do average stuff. We do average stuff.
But you have a good time, right? You have a good time.
That is what we do.
You have a good time. But no, absolutely. And like I said, it's nice to have him come and jump on. And like I have with previous podcasts, sometimes people want to tell you to stop talking about the Jets because they have been a bad team. And you kind of go, well, you're kind of right. I can't really talk too much about them. But you just want to, right? And I know that you were saying the same thing. That's how we connected. So now you get a full time to talk as much Jets as you like. Because we're all crazy. Mental. We all are nutters who support this team from this country to that country and manage the expectations that we have to with this troublesome team for the last decade, right?
For sure.
So so later in the podcast, I'll be speaking with DJ. DJ Bien-Aime, obviously the Daily News writer, New York Daily News writer. He was going to jump on with me and Craig. Unfortunately, his flight got delayed, so it would just be me with DJ. But I'll fire off all the questions that me and Craig put together anyway for him. So that'll be later in the show. But I thought we'd just kick off with a little bit of just get to know Craig, and then we'll jump into some news. So Craig, tell the listeners just a little bit about yourself and obviously how you became a Jets fan and when that was.
Yeah, for sure. So, long story short, I won't labour it. To be honest, my introduction to American football was playing. Shout out Hertfordshire Cheetahs, previously Watford Cheetahs. Had about 5-6 years there, which was great. Got to experience play some D1 ball, which was cool. Couple playoff runs, championship games. So, my introduction to American football was playing. Around probably about 18, 19. Wanted to find a team. The Jets were one of the teams that I was certainly looking out for. I went for stash. First, if you're going to pick a team, often it's who's got the dopest uniforms. And green and white, you can't go wrong. But what did it, I went to New York for my 21st birthday. And we was in, I think it must have been the last day. And I was in one of them dive bars, which I loved at the time. And a couple of dudes were sat next to us. And just started talking football. And at this point, because I was playing a little bit, I fancied myself as a bit of an expert. So we was talking, shooting the breeze, whatever. And I asked, having got to know them, I had an affinity for New York. Who did they think I should support? And given my background, I'm a working class guy. They were very much, listening to you and talking to you. I think you're Jets all day. So since then, Jets and Mets fan. And I feel like I got not unlucky, but in terms of the false dawn, at the time I started following the Jets, we had some fantastic players.
So it was 2008, right? This was in 2008, and obviously just before the Rex years, and it was just when Brett Favre joined.
Exactly.
As we talked before, yeah.
Completely false dawn, and then basically 10 years of misery. But I'm still in green and white. So,
absolutely, yeah. And it's going to mean more to us all when they become good. This pain that we've had for 10 years is going to feel so good. We really do deserve to have a bit of success with our team and have some happiness. And I think it's due, and I do have confidence that it's coming with this regime. Fingers crossed. You never know, but I do have confidence. It does feel different, and so no, I'm with you on this one. Like honestly, yeah, it's about time, isn't it, Craig?
For sure, man. And you know, picking up that point, I am excited. I'm excited this year. I was excited last year. That's what does it though. The hope is what kills you. But
It
yeah,
is. It is. Yeah.
I'm Team Salah, and it don't look the same anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? It does feel to have been a shift. So
Yeah.
2022, let's go.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, I think for that we'll wrap it up on the kind of intro to Craig, and we'll head over to the news. Okay, so for the news this week, obviously we had the owners' meeting, and we'll get into a lot of that a bit later on, and also with DJ. But before that, we kind of a few more signings that calmed down a little bit from free agency. We're kind of, as I've named the episode, we're between the tent poles in terms of the free agency's calmed down, and we're kind of just about to start the build up to the draft, right? So we're just in between there. But we did have a few signings. We had Greg Zerline, the kicker, former Pro Bowl kicker, signed for the Jets on a 1-year deal. Eddie Pinheiro, who was with us last year, at the end of last year, signed his tender. So they'll be going into a kicking competition. Finally, right? We may have a decent kicker from that gets born out from that competition.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I actually love this move. Like I love it. I think at first things first, just so people are aware, when you hear me talk, I'm coming as a fan. So I know you guys have a real structured approach to it, and I love the news you're bringing and the detail. I'm not going to profess to be an expert. I am a fan first, and I am sick to death. Particularly considering, a lot of the slow starts, I'm sick to death of leaving points on the field because our kicker can't make a kick. I am of the belief that if you're a professional kicker, you shouldn't be missing no kicks. If it's inside 50, you should not be missing a kick. So I like this. I like this decisive. Get the competition done early. Let everybody know you need to go and perform. This is what we need. I don't see us being the team to, take many risks at 4th and short. So I think we need a good kicking game. Let's get it done early. Let's have some fun of it over in the off season, and hopefully, we're not chipping the ball onto the uprights. Let's put points on the board.
No, absolutely. I mean, I saw the Jets getting some flack from some individuals about this. Some ESPN characters were basically saying, "Why would you sign these 2 kickers?" I'm like, so what? Now the Jets make a move that's for competition, and suddenly it's a joke. Like, honestly, it gets tiresome. But we have to accept this stuff until we're a better team. That people are just going to be attacking every move like it's some sort of weird thing. But no, completely with you. Get these guys. Get this. Whoever wins this competition, hopefully, will be in a really good position to have a successful season, and we'll be able to have a good consistency. We're not asking for to have Tucker or Youngwei Koo, but let's have someone who's not going to cost us games, and it's happened quite often. It's put us in sticky situations, and now it's time to win. Let's get that kicking situation sorted out.
And the thing with the kicker is that while I say, if it's under 50, you've got to make those kicks. I also recognise that the pressure kickers are under, particularly when you get to, October, November, when you're missing kicks, you're losing your jobs. It's hard for kickers to provide that level of consistency.
Yeah.
So I don't want a competition coming into the start of the season. I don't want there to be any concern. I want whoever's going to kick to be nice and confident, made 1 million kicks in the off season, had some good scrimmage time. So they come in confident, knowing if I do miss one, I'm going to go and make my Mets 10 and it's not going to be an issue. So we get this now. I think this is actually a very, very good move from the organisation.
Yeah, it's time for it to happen. We were calling for quite a few years, and a friend of the show, Joe Blewett, who works for Jets X Factor, he always came up with the concept that Joe Douglas allowed the kicking competition to be not there to not be one, and for the kicking game to be almost accosting the game. So everyone's improving, but we're losing games still. so that we can still get those top picks. And now that it's time when we flip, when we flip expectations, the kicking game will change, and it's happened. So that probably lines up where they
Yeah.
are, and that probably lines up with Joe Douglas needs to do it. So that kind of thing could be true. Even it's obviously a bit of a conspiracy. It's starting to line up. Funny enough, another bit of news, a bit of a signing was the defensive tackle guy, Solomon Thomas, former third overall pick for the 49ers. With Salah was defensive end, defensive coach there. He spent last year with the Raiders, had 3.5 sacks, 12 pressures, but played less than 50% of the snaps. So decent rotational player and knows the system.
Listen, again, I like this move. I don't want to. I'm worried. Like I say, it's the hope that kills you, but I like it. I like it a lot. I think that you speak to any Jets fan who watched any of us, watched any football last year. I expected our defensive line to be far more impactful than it was, and a big reason is obviously losing Lawson. But I think that the drop off was more significant than many of us expected. I'm a huge Quinnen Williams fan, and I still believe in him. But it wasn't the defensive line that maybe we had hoped, and so to be getting Lawson back, which I think is huge. I think yes, he's had the injury a couple of years ago is a concern. Solomon Thomas came into the league with huge expectations, was one of those big draft picks. So I do think there's risk, but this guy's young, still 26, 27. You've got that level of experience, and we know, as much as the physicality is really important on either line, you improve your technique as you get older, and that's going to make a huge difference. He's got the experience. I think that's going to help that room anyway. And let's have competition. Everyone's, I think I'll be shocked if we don't make more moves on the D-line, whether that be through the draft or free agency. So again, decisive, early, get guys in the room. You've got time to work with them to see what they've got. And I think, I've watching Solomon Thomas's press conferences and the stuff I've read, he's really come across really well.
Yeah, he's regarded as a great guy, as a great teammate, like a locker room guy, and so it just adds to. They are just looking for really high character guys. Now, obviously, if a player like Tyreek Hill comes about, his skill is just incredible, and you sometimes have to kind of deal with the past that's there.
That's NFL, man.
But yeah. Exactly. But in terms of like when they're making choices that
I might let Tyreek Hill slap my mum just to come play for the Jets. I'll be honest. I'll suffer some of that.
Yeah, I'm secretly okay if they get DK or AJ Brown, and we'll talk about that in a second. I'll be okay that we missed out on Tyreek, to be honest, and not having to kind of have that weird kind of like support not support situation with Tyreek. But yeah, he's a fantastic player. But you can see that when it comes to someone like Solomon Thomas or the draft picks, where they've got a bit more control over who they bring in, they really are focused on those really high character guys who are really great locker room and have that great vibe. And you're seeing all the videos on Instagram with the rookies from last year. The vibe is great. Everyone's doing really well, and I think that just feeds into such a great an actual culture. They talk about culture all the time. This is finally what you see as a good culture, where everyone's just vibing, happy with each other, love playing with each other, going to war, as they say, with each other. It looks really good. And like I said, you add someone like Solomon Thomas, while he's a more limited player maybe at this point, great rotational piece, great locker room guy, and a great person, a great addition to add to the team.
And you can't. Sorry, just before we move on, you can't underestimate that, right? And you talk about setting a culture, and that's actually what I think Salah did really well last year. Not only in terms of obviously doing the work in the building, but also communicating that work to the fan base, letting people know this is what I'm trying to do. That level of expectation, that clarity around people's approach. So I love that. All good, and I want those guys, but we have to have performances. We have to have results. I was almost satisfied at the back of the end of the year. Very frustrated early on. More satisfied at the back end of the year because we competed. But just competing is not enough for me this year. So I do like the move. I see, like I say, I think it's huge upside. There's no reason why he doesn't come in and become a starter and actually really contributes to this team. But these moves have to pay off. We have to see some results. We have to see improvement.
Yeah, I mean it's great because they do rotate the line so often. They like to rotate the pieces, and sometimes the whole line subs in and out. So just to have him added to what you have with hopefully JFM sliding in if we can get some edge rush help,
Mm.
and then you've added obviously Sheldon Rankins, Quick Q, you know you got Shepard there, so you're getting people who know the system, and kind of can rotate and do a good job when they're called upon. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. The kind of the last bit of news is just kind of touching on a little bit of a story that again we'll talk about more at the owners' meetings with DJ, but just coming out of that, it was kind of where we are, kind of post Tyreek Hill trade attempt, and kind of the news that they put out the figures that they were happy to pay what he got from Miami. They were happy to trade. They showed exactly what they were offering to trade. They are telling people this is what's available for you if you want it. Players, this is what's available if you want it. And they are just putting out that message to say, you want the money, you want the picks, we're the call to make, right? It's very clear. And obviously, DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, funnily, both of them former teammates of Elijah Moore, which is just interesting. That Ole Miss receiver room, ridiculous, of a few years ago. Both of those guys due for a new pay deal, and obviously they're looking for these new deals where Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill got this huge contracts. They want the same, right? And they're next up. And yeah, so like there's been that news, obviously that those two could be available. There's been rumblings a little bit, and obviously this week, the Seahawks GM John Schneider and Pete Carroll, the coach, both said they intend to sign DK Metcalf. They have intentions that, like, this is the same. Like I said, apparently this was the same stuff they were talking about with Russ before they traded him. They intend for him to stay. If you would come out a bit stronger if you would want the player to say, you just go, no, he will be a player, we'll get it done. It's a bit wishy-washy. What's your feelings about DK Metcalf and the availability and him as a player potentially coming available?
So, I guess first things first. Like this is what I love this part, and we're in a great position as Jets. Like it doesn't feel like like the Browns. Like you just got a fucking, excuse my language, mountain to climb. Do you get what I'm saying? Like to pull yourself out. It feels like we are on the precipice of spring. So I love that. We've got so many options. I think we're in a great position, which is why I've seen so much Jets talk, really focusing on this draft. Honestly, I couldn't give two shits about the draft. Like I think I'm approaching the draft with fun. Like it's going to be I don't remember last draft that I would have been able to properly just enjoy it and see what turns up. So I personally, I love DK. I'm one of those that had him in fantasy his rookie year. And if you watch the guy, physically, it's nuts. He's such a man. He's so big, so powerful, and he's really, really improved in terms of the technical aspect of being a receiver.
Yeah.
And I think he's definitely up for grabs. If you're the Seahawks, and if I'm DK, you've just let Russ go. No matter what, no matter who they put in, there's going to be a transition period. This is prime time for Metcalf. So I think, I think I think there's every chance someone goes hard, they get DK Metcalf. You're going to have to pay him. There's no two ways about that. But I don't see why, situation-wise, he wouldn't be in a position to move. I know that, we've heard that it's more likely to be, if the Jets are going to do a deal with one of those type of receivers coming to the end of their rookie deal or whatever, AJ Brown might be more likely. But I just think situationally, I don't see why the Hawks would pay him. So
yeah,
I would like to have him. No matter what though, I want the Jets to do big business in the free agency, which is why I'm saying, like, for me, the draft is almost more, we can approach it with some more fun. We can be a bit more risky. We can trade back if we want. I do think there's no, outside of maybe 1 and 2, and even then you could argue, is 1 to 4 hugely different? So I think, unless you fall in love with 1 or 2 players, and I have personally fallen in love with 1 or 2 players that I would be going into that draft to get, I want to see us do big business. We've got good cap space. Go get a number 1 receiver, or go get a number 1 lineman or defensive lineman. That's go and do business. Make a clear intent that you're going to improve your team, and then you can, really chance your arm in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, like you allude to, the news. Obviously, Connor Hughes was saying that on his podcast, and he's reported that from what he was hearing from the owners' meeting, that AJ Brown would be more of the likely of the two, purely because of the Titans' cap situation. And if he wanted the money, there would be a bit more of a difficult ability to give him that deal. With the Seahawks have the money, with with offloading Ross, they have the money to basically go and get DK the new deal, give the DK the new deal, and obviously he's being so young that if you got a 2 or 3 year recap, you could still have him around to kind of help the process. So that's from that angle, that's why you would keep him around, because he's a guy you could build around. But maybe they see, well, if we get the 10th pick, if we push to get the 10th pick, then we just get a young receiver to pair up, and we do the same with a young receiver without having to pay all that money, and money can go elsewhere. So it's interesting.
That's what you're saying, isn't you? If you're Joe D, surely that's what you're saying.
Well, yeah,
Unless
it's up
there's
to them.
somebody,
Yeah.
unless there's a receiver that you think, because I don't feel like we've got 2-3 years. One of the best receivers I saw coming out of college personally, and there'll be many different opinions on this, but in recent years, I was so high on Jerry Jeudy, so high on Jerry Jeudy,
Yeah.
and really and truly, it's taken him 3 years, 4 years, which is not
He's
uncommon
not there
for
yet,
receivers,
right?
and he's not there exactly.
He's in going into year 3, I believe now.
Right,
and he's not there yet. And he was, again, just like I was exactly the same. I love Joe Jeudy, and you hear a lot of people say the exact same thing and say, yeah, he's not come along. And you're like, well, that's why I've been really strong on wanting to get a receiver and a kind of a veteran receiver in who could be additional to Corey Davis and Elijah Moore, because we need that player to be available this year and be ready to go this year. And a rookie, like I said, Jerry Jeudy is the perfect example, because there's other cases where people were overdrafted a little bit, and you go, well, yeah, that guy, it was a bit overdrafted, and maybe he was just there because he was so fast, like a John Ross or something. Jerry Jeudy was supposed to be a really, really good prospect, like one that you would really bank on, and he's not been ready. Like he's done a few things, but it's not.
I
really,
like Jerry Jeudy, but he's not your number one go-to every damn receiver.
No.
Not yet, and I just don't. And I love Elijah Moore as well. So I do think we've got those pieces already in the offense. Go get yourself, like I say, number one receiver. Have fun in the draft. You've got 2 picks in the first round, and we're saying that between 1 and 4, is there a huge difference? Between 4 and 10, is there a huge difference? For me, it's about who you want, who you like, who you turn around and say, boom, that's my guy. Yeah. And so if you ain't got that, trade back. Use that leverage. Go and get yourself, like my view, I want a top name receiver, and I don't want one. I am a huge Julio Jones fan, but that was heartbreaking to watch for the Titans last year. Yeah. So I don't want one at the end of his career. I don't want one on his last contract. I want a DK Metcalf, AJ Brown type, end of their rookie deal. Get into their prime, come in and start the new Jets revolution.
That rookie class that they're in also includes Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin. They're all new contracts. So just a few other names to kind of keep an eye on in terms of where they are with their respective teams. But I think the smoke has been with those first two, and go get them, and then you're able to just be kind of take the pass rusher at the top of the draft, and then you've filled all your needs. And then you can literally just get best player available, move around, do what you want. Exactly, it just opens everything up, and that's what we've really struggled. We've been trying to pin so many needs with the draft. Finally, we get one that we've got most of the needs plugged up, and if we get the receiver thing sorted out, and early on we get the pass rusher, it's all good, isn't it? It's all gravy after that. So
100.
Absolutely, that's the way you build, and you get the best players in the the best quality players throughout the draft as well. So, no, I mean that kind of wraps up our little chat for the news this week, and it will obviously wrap up Craig's part of the show this week. Craig, thanks so much for jumping on this first time, and obviously he'll be rotating through with Matt and David as well. We'll all be together hopefully at one time as well. Like, it's going to rotate. It's going to be who's available at what time and when we're recording. But no, Craig, thanks for joining me on this first recording.
Nah, appreciate it, man. Look forward to hearing from you guys, and hope it goes well with DJ. Tell him I said what's up, and I want to ask him what his views are long term about the Williams brothers. So you make sure you talk about Quincy and Quinnen for me today.
Yeah, I'll drop that in there for him as well for sure. But I think that'll wrap up for us, and we'll head now to my interview with DJ. Okay, so I'm joined by DJ Bien-Aime, who is the New York Jets beat reporter for the New York Daily News. DJ, thanks for joining me on this.
Thank you for having me.
That's great. This obviously this past week we had the owners meeting. You spoke to Woody, to Robert Sala, to Joe Douglas. Obviously the free agency period was pretty good. They got quite a lot done and filled in a lot of gaps. How do you feel they feel about free agency and their general feelings of where they stand as we head towards the draft?
Yeah, they feel that the roster is much improved. They were able to add basically, I think, four quality starters. When you add Tyler, you add in DJ, Jordan. I mean, those three guys are going to start off top. Um, Obviously, you have CJ, who's also going to be a good locker room guy, along with just be able to run some 12 personnel, something that they were running a lot in the early parts of last year, but due to lack of production and injuries, they basically went heavy 11 personnel. So they'll be able to get back to the roots of being able to run a lot more 12 personnel and be able to run the ball out of that formation. Obviously, they're able to snag um, Tomlinson, who was a Pro Bowl left guard. So really got 4 or 5 legitimate starting caliber NFL guys that have NFL experience that have also been in playoff runs, especially with DJ Reed was basically with Seattle. With Seattle won the division last year. Uh, Tomlinson, he went all the way to the NFC Championship game. I mean, he was on the team that went to the Super Bowl. Who else? CJ was just in the Super Bowl. Jordan won a Super Bowl. So they were able to add a lot of veteran guys that also have legitimate experience when it comes to winning. So they feel good about that. They did want to add a level of explosiveness that they're still kind of lacking in the sense of being able to one hit quitter, maybe two, three, maybe getting a guy that can generate points extremely fast and make you explosive. Whether the guy that can take away the ball and take it to the crib, or a guy that can get the ball in their hands and they can take it to the crib. A la why they try to go and get Tyreek Hill, why they were interested in Calvin Ridley, why they were interested in Mike Williams from the Chargers, but he ended up getting tagged. So there's little things like that that could take their offseason from good to great.
Yeah, I mean that from another thing that there was a few kind of rumblings coming out from what they were saying, and one of them was Joe Douglas was very kind of out front about his desire to go after any potential player who may be struggling to obtain a large contract from their current team, and they said
Right.
we're willing to strike. I mean that's obviously the news that all Jets fans we're just all kind of waiting for some potential news to break. Obviously, this off season's been crazy, so and
hmm
obviously that Tyreek Hill situation has all got us kind of really on our fingers waiting for something to happen. But do you sense that they are going to just pounce at say DK Metcalf or AJ Brown if there's any contracts are kind of snag?
I think DK. Here's the thing: you'd have to for a guy like DK, you probably got to trade for him prior to the draft. I just don't know if Seattle would move him prior to the draft because the way apparently they do business, they wait to the summer anyway to negotiate contracts in depth. I've reached out to some of DK's people. They said all the trade rumors are just reports. It's not really anything concrete. That doesn't mean that Seattle probably isn't taking calls, but if I think if the Jets were aggressive, they could possibly pry him from Seattle. AJ Brown's an interesting option also. The issue with those two is okay, does Seattle or Tennessee want to actually give up those guys, even though if you say give them a first? Do they actually want to move guys that they helped develop that are still relatively young? Like that's when things get a little bit tricky. Like the Chiefs, they had Tyreek Hill for a while. They already paid him, things of that nature, and um, they already have like a quarterback where it's like, okay, we can win, we can do more with less. Tennessee's not in that capacity where they can just put it on a quarterback and okay, we may lose this one weapon, but we can still keep the offense going because you're just that great.
Yeah,
Like how KC has that.
yeah.
Seattle, I mean, they have Drew Lock. Like them getting rid of DK that doesn't help them at all. Like at least you can make the argument for the Chiefs that okay, we just didn't want to pay Tyreek Hill $30 million. We had Patrick Mahomes. He's getting a lot of money. It just didn't work financially. Can't really say the same about those other two options. But again, um, You never know. Just like we didn't see the Tyreek Hill situation come out of nowhere. It came out of
Yeah.
nowhere. So
I think it's kind of in any other year you'd say it just put it to bed. It isn't happening. It's not happening. But no one's going to relax because this season's just been everyone's just been haymaker after haymaker, like
right,
news coming out of anywhere. Even like when Bruce Arians just retired, it's like everything's just kind of going off almost every other night. So you never know. Going into this draft, obviously the talk was of who they take at four. They have been sounding very kind of much like they want to go for a pass rusher potentially at
hmm
four.
yeah,
Obviously, Ikem Ekwonu is a guy who is a great prospect at the tackle position, and then that throws in the whole Mackay Becton and where they stand on him. So, what's the
right.
general feeling of like where they may go at four? In terms of they said that Joe said that Mackay Becton is currently what they're planning for him to be the right tackle, but he's the person who would say that because it was his draft pick. Where do you feel they are with Mackay, and then what might that indicate what they might do at four if say Icky and say Katie are both there at four?
I think they're gonna let Mackay prove his worth, both the coaching staff and obviously the front office. Our front office has more invested because they drafted him. This is the new coaching staff. Obviously, things didn't go the way that they wanted to last year. The injury, a little bit out of weight during camp. Obviously, missing most of the OTAs with a foot injury. Struggling a little bit in OTA. I mean, during training camp because Carl Lawson was winning a lot during during training camp against Mackay. But trade rumors. Here's the thing. What are you gonna like? You're gonna just trade Mackay just to trade him? Like you're gonna trade him for what? A fifth? You're gonna trade him for a sixth, seventh? Like you're not gonna get much on the market from Mackay, especially with him coming, with his knee injury from last year.
Yeah,
Um, then the knee injury thing kind of throws me off a little bit because yeah, it was initially diagnosed as 4 to 8 week injury, but sometimes we gotta use common sense. Like that did not look like a 4 to 8 week injury. He may
no.
have been. I'm not. I'm not. Reporting anything, but he might have been misdiagnosed. Like that is a possibility.
I
He
mean,
might
I
have
thought it
been
was season ending.
misdiagnosed.
When I saw it, I was like, he's done. He's done for the
How
season. So yeah,
how often have we seen guys get rolled up on like that and they come
yeah.
back?
No, it doesn't
Like
happen very often.
yeah, that doesn't even make sense. But they put that time frame out for him, and
Yeah,
obviously it didn't work out that way. It is what it is. But I think that um, they're gonna. My guess is they're gonna give him a shot this year to prove his worth, which is why I think they're gonna go edge rusher at four. I mean, I don't understand the purpose of going with Icky
no,
because all it does is um, when you're not gonna be able to address, you have a premium asset to be able to address a premium position, which is edge rusher, which is
yeah.
why I think which is why I think they're gonna go, which I think they should do. So if you draft an offensive tackle, now you're not really filling. You're gonna have to create a hole by getting rid of Mackay Becton just to fill that hole
Yeah.
with Icky, and then now you're not. I won't say wasting asset on that, but you're basically now at 10, you got to possibly, see what's left at 10 when it comes to edge rushing because
I don't think
I
there will be
think
much. I don't think
there won't be, yeah, because
I
I
can
think,
easily see, the four big guys. If you think Trayvon Walker, Johnson, KT, and obviously Hutchinson will be gone by four, and then you're like,
yeah,
where'd you go? You're like, I just don't see you. You're a fourth position. There's four guys that potentially could be there. I don't think all four will be taken. All three of them will be taken before then. I think
right,
there'll be someone in another position group. So you're going to get either probably Jermaine Johnson, KT, or Hutchinson available for just go there, fill
right.
that hole with a premium position, and then move on to the rest of the draft. And I don't
That's
know.
it.
Yeah, I mean, me and David have been very much on this, and I mean, Equan is a great prospect, right? And he's a very good. When you watch the tape, and it's great. He's a great player, but that is just not what we need right now, and it's not. It's a luxury pick to replace
Exactly.
anyone. We've got two potential decent guys there. Just we don't have another guy opposite Carl Lawson, and then we don't even know where Carl Lawson's going to be 100%. We
Right.
have hopes, but yeah, you've got to get that premium guy at four. That's exactly where we're at as well. In terms of like, we talked about those potential trade options, and obviously that would change the landscape of what they do with the 10th overall pick. But it's looking like if they probably don't get any trade done or anything like that, they'll probably go with uh, a wide receiver at 10. I know you've been very much on the Drake London train as a guy to fill in the kind of as the guy to be the best fit for the Jets.
Right.
What's your feelings in terms of will they? Is it pretty much locked in? Is it pretty much kind of like telegraphed to the whole league that they're going that way at 10? And you still with the Drake London at 10 chat, or maybe that Jameson Williams chat's coming in for 10?
So for me, um, I think they're gonna go best player available. So
Mm,
it's not necessarily that they'll go receiver at 10. Um, it's not guaranteed there because they believe that Elijah can be a number one wide receiver.
yeah,
Obviously, they like Corey. It just really comes down to when, not if, but when one of those guys has to miss a game or two. You're basically going to be out there with Corey and Braxton, or Elijah and Braxton, or or Corey and Elijah. You know what I'm saying? Versus
yeah,
where you can get like a Drake London or a Garrett Wilson or even JMO. You might be able to you'll be able to weather the storm of whenever injuries happen because at the receiver position it happens. So I obviously I was big on Drake London. I want to see what he runs at his pro day on. I think that's on Tuesday.
mhm,
That's because Garrett Wilson ran 4.3, and Garrett Wilson has a very high floor bare minimum. His only my only concern was how dynamic could he really be, and he has the speed to be dynamic. So it's kind of a toss up between those two for me now.
mm,
Obviously, if JMO was healthy, he'd been number one receiver for me. But Garrett Wilson gives you everything that he's basically a bigger Elijah Moore, where he's going to give you the route running, he's going to give you the dynamic ability after the catch, and I mean he's a smoother fit transition wise from college to pros in this offense that values a lot of route running, separation, and yak. Granted, I will give this to Drake. Drake can produce yak, and he also provides a big body that the Jets just don't have. That you could throw the ball to him down the field, things of that nature. But that's kind of where I'm at right now. So for me, I think Drake has to run. He got to run 4.5. If he runs 4.6, it's over with. Not over with, but Garrett Wilson basically becomes the number one
mm.
target in that aspect. So
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens at the pro day, for sure. And yeah, I think the receivers are a good. Yeah, you do say if there's best player available, maybe there are some players that drop, like if a Source Gardner somehow fell to 10, you go, it's a really good prospect. I know we've got, I know you've done a feature on DJ Reed, recently, and it was released yesterday. Um, do you think that a cornerback, as someone as good as Sauce Gardner, would be interesting for them, or do you think it's going to be another position group, maybe a Jordan Davis at defensive tackle?
um, I mean, it's interesting because when it comes to the cornerback spot, it all depends who you talk to about the cornerback spot.
Yeah,
Because like the Jets do view it as a premium position. I mean, I've asked Solid directly, like, do you value corner in your system? He said, yeah, absolutely, because at least I can gear my coverage a specific way, where I can say, okay, let's say you have a shutdown corner on one side, all right? You go out there. He told me verbatim, you go out there, you play football, and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do over here with the other 10 guys. Um, but again, if you can get there with four, then the cornerback group that you have right now would be able to suffice. Um, I really do like DJ Reed, and we'll see what step that Bryce or Brandon Echols can take.
mm,
Um, I don't really see Jordan Davis, like a D tackle being in the cards. Safety, they don't view it as a premium position, so I don't see them going safety in the top 10 unless they view Kyle Hamilton as a unicorn, which they probably won't because he just didn't test like a unicorn. If he'd have been,
no,
let's say, busted out of 4.3 or something, then maybe.
mm,
But yeah, I don't really see that. I think at 10 it's gonna be receiver or corner. Just all depending on how the board falls.
yeah, yeah. I just don't see any other position that would. I don't see a prospect potentially in that range who would drop that you would say we're not going to take a receiver and supplement the receiver room if we've, they've been wanting a receiver, so they've been after all the receivers. It seems to be so. If they don't get one by the draft, you would say those players start to come into good value around that 10th pick, and you just fire off and get the guy that you want, and hopefully, maybe someone like Atlanta go elsewhere, and then you get the pick of everybody, and then you can choose who you want. Just kind of wrapping up, my one of my other co-hosts, Craig, is a big fan of the Williams brothers narrative. I loved, obviously, the kind of the two Williams brothers playing, and it brings us to the kind of the linebacker position, which is kind of an interesting position because of Salah and Olbricht's background with linebackers. Do you feel like, there has been talk about they're pretty happy with Quincy there with CJ, but do you see them maybe attacking that position in the second or third round potentially?
Yeah, absolutely. They are content with the position. They're content for sure because they feel that in their system, since the linebackers have to go lateral a lot versus just always going downhill, they play a lot more east to west. That it takes them time to get adjusted to that and understanding what the offenses are trying to do to you in the run game, and then learning how to attack the gaps that way. So they feel that okay, continue if people continue to learn, if our guys continue to learn within the system, that will be just as fine. But I think they'll still add somebody, whether it's the third round, fourth round, second round. But obviously they like Sherwood. Obviously they liked Hamza, but obviously he didn't really play that much as a rookie. I think the transition to linebacker was difficult for him, along with tearing his ACL off of his last year in college, and basically that whole transition was probably tough for him. But they liked Sherwood because you saw that once Jerry Davis got hurt, boom, they threw out. If they threw Sherwood and they made him a starting Mike. So I think once they get more reps in that system, those guys will be better. But that's what it really comes down to for them is, um, letting those guys learn how to attack the offense's run game versus east to west because they basically you gotta basically see which gap is open and attack it and get the ball carriers for them. So that's basically that. But I think they'll ask somebody. It's just not as high on the board. Cause they asked me whole, so it's not as high on the board as let's say receiver or D tackle or edge or safety.
Yeah.
Even though safety, they're actually they're actually like a lot more content with safety. Um, Especially with getting Jordan Whitehead because that's one thing that's gonna allow them to do now is um them getting DJ Reed and Jordan Whitehead allows them to not have to play as much too high and be able to have another person in the box because I know you noticed a little bit because obviously you guys obviously do a lot of film study is granted, yes, the Marcus May last game was against the Colts, and they were getting bludgeoned that game, and they got bludgeoned the week before that against the Patriots. But the run game really fell off a cliff after he got hurt because you didn't really have somebody that could fill the alley
Mm-hmm.
and come downhill and basically make plays in the run game
Yeah, and
because
Ashton really struggled at kind of mistiming his runs or
yeah,
kind of bad
exactly.
angles. He it's one of the things he really has to work on. So yeah, I think with a Jordan Whitehead is a great player for that kind of for stopping that and kind of clogging up the back end. Yeah.
Exactly, and
Mm,
now that they have DJ Reed, they don't have to have somebody over the top
mm,
as much over, let's say, a Bryce Hall or a Brandon Echo. They can occupy that person, their safety more in the box. That's one thing that one coach on the staff was telling me why they were excited about getting Jordan White because it allows them to play more of their scheme in that aspect. So you know, to bring it all back together.
yeah.
Um, I think linebacker they'll for sure add somebody, but they're kind of okay with the room. So I think nose, edge, those are more the spots that they're going to try to allocate the higher resources to try to improve.
Right. So maybe we look at those picks at the top of the second and that third round pick as where they may go. Maybe later on they go for a linebacker, but we never know. Maybe if a good prospect drops down to say, if Nakobe Dean drops down into the second round, and you're like the value, he's a good player. Maybe you take
Right.
the best
Yep.
player. So yeah, it's cool. It's one of those things. Well, last question before I let you go. You being obviously notoriously a Dolphins fan, last week when that Tyreek Hill news drops and you've got the Jets and the Dolphins sitting there, you're going, and you're kind of sitting on the fence. You know, you sit between Jets Twitter and Dolphins Twitter, obviously, with where you work and where you support. How was
Right.
that like? That whole crazy? It was because it was crazy hour and a half for everyone involved. But for you, with those kind of two sides, what was that like?
Yeah, man, that was kind of crazy because I remember the way everything went down was, I reached out to my source, and my source let me know that they didn't think Tyreek Hill was coming. So I put that out. Dolphin Twitter got caught wind of that because you had Dolphin reporters retweeting that, and then you had Jets Twitter under my comments, basically trying to discredit the story or the report, or you know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
being upset about it. But it was crazy because you had the Jet fans saying, "Well, Tua can't throw the ball deep to him. Tyreek Hill wants to come to New York," and then you have Jet fans saying, Dolphin fans saying, "Zach Wilson isn't any good. Why do you want to go over there?" So it's all. It was, and it's saying stuff like it's the Jets, so it was a very eventful hour, to say hour and a half, to say the least. But
yeah.
now that it's funny because the loser is now going to have to face Tyreek Hill
That was
twice.
the worst thing as Jets fans. It was that he
Yeah,
went to a division rival. Like it was like we don't mind. I don't mind missing out on the player. It is what it is. But for him to go to Dolphins, you're like, ah,
yeah,
now you have to. Now you've got him and Waddle. And like, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare for those that defensive backs we just talked about. But no, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, all that will come when Dolphins play Jets. You're going to have that. It's kind of all come up. As every week it has to be when they play. You're going to be in between those two factions of where you support and where all the Jets Twitter are hitting you up with all the trying to see if you're actually secretly a Jets fan, all that stuff. So it's all good. It's all good, and it's all good fun. So, no, DJ, thanks for joining us. Do you want to shout out any of the work? Like I said, I mentioned your DJ Reed piece. Any other thing you want to shout out to any of the listeners?
yeah. I mean, that's just DJ Reed piece. I'll probably be working on just overviews of each position group where things are right now, and basically that'll be probably that for the most part today. I mean, not today, but what I have coming up. Just an overview. Probably some prospects for Jeff to have to look at, and that'll be basically that.
Okay, so I'd like to thank DJ for jumping on the pod. It's obviously a very good chat with someone who's very plugged in with the team, knows where they are, where they're heading. So it's always a great chat. I'd like to thank Craig also for making his first appearance on the podcast. He'll be obviously joining the team as a kind of rotating co-host. So obviously listen for him out more, follow him on his Twitter, which I'll be dropping in the tweet that goes out with the podcast. So guys, yeah, enjoy the week. We will see what happens if there's any trade. If not, we just lock in and start fighting over who's going to be the wide receiver taken at 10, I guess. So anyway, guys, enjoy the week and we will catch you next week.